Marie Gage has released her third novel, A Touch of Promise. Marie is well known in the Halliburton Highlands. She's a talented storyteller, a real gift for weaving fact and fiction into tales of strength, compassion, and triumph. And Marie's books are not only popular across Canada, but she has readers in many distant lands as well. And we're delighted to welcome her.
Uh,
Marie, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much, Mike. I'm pleased to be here and am looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, well, it's an exciting time for you with the launch of a new book, and I know A Touch of Promise is a standalone novel in the Promise series. Maybe we could start by having you tell us when and where the action takes place in this book.
Well, the action in this book is, although it's a standalone book, it does follow strongly on Promise of the Bluebell Woods in that it's Pearl's life once she gets to Canada in 1947, but it's a distinct story with its own arc and own path, but it does have some repeating characters from the other two novels, actually. And the book goes from 1947 into the early 50s, looking at sort of the post-World War II adjustment and the adjustment of Pearl as a war bride to living in a country that is not where her home and her family are.
Now, in this book, obviously, you have some central themes that you've woven into the story as it goes along. What kind of themes can we expect?
Well, the biggest theme is the adjustment of Pearl to life in a new country and the um, lack of welcome from Canadians to the war brides because of their sense that the war brides had stolen men from Canadian women. So there was some animosity there that created issues. But the story is largely about her path and her arc in terms of um, making this home and resolving some of those conflicts that exist.
Uh,
But there's other little themes in there. I mean, there's the theme of loyalty, there's the theme of friendship, in particular, of how, women support one another through difficult times. And there's also a theme of sort of the difference in women's roles in the 50s, the sort of gender specific roles versus today's roles and versus Pearl's role during the war. Because when Pearl, if anybody who's read Promise of the Bluebell Woods would know that Pearl had been the secretary treasurer of a company that was critical to the war effort. And she'd taken on that job at the ripe old age of 18. And so now she's here in Canada and she's, a mother and in a more 1950s appropriate role for a woman of that time. So there's an adjustment there as well.
This story will resonate with a lot of people who've come to Canada from other countries. And it certainly reminded me of our family, and in particular, my mother. We came to Canada in 1948, and she had never been outside of her own county in England. And the things you're talking about, I can see in our own family life. How did you develop this story? What was the inspiration for this?
Well, there were a couple of distinct inspirations that got woven together. And one of those inspirations was the fact that my mother-in-law was a war bride and did inspire, Promise of the Bluebell Woods. And I have talked to her at length about what her life was like when she came to Canada. But I didn't want to write her real story. I don't want to write about the current generation of my family and cause the issues that that might create in people. So I took some of the stories she told, but not her real path in life, and wove it together with an experience of my own. In 1981, I started working at Victoria Hospital in London, Ontario, and the hospital had taken over the care of veterans from Westminster Hospital. And I had staff that worked in the Psychiatric Institute, which housed veterans, many of who had been in that institution since the end of the war, so in excess of 30 years.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I got thinking, what would it have been like for women who married those men in England, because many of the marriages of war brides didn't happen after the war, they happened during the war. So what would have happened when they then came to find that their husbands were suffering from battle fatigue to such an extreme that they were institutionalized? And for those listening, battle fatigue was the term of the day that is now post-traumatic stress syndrome in our current vocabulary. So I took those two themes and brought them together.
Now, Pearl encounters a significant challenge with her mother in law's emotional abuse. And without giving too much away, because we want people to buy the book and enjoy it, what helps her through this trying period?
Well, in one word, I'd say friendships. The formation of relationships with other women was critical to Pearl's development. But in another word, I'd say that it was Pearl's perseverance and fortitude as a person who was determined to resolve rather than flee at the first sign of trouble.
Now, do you see friendship that way in your own life?
I do. I think that women surround one another and help each other through difficult times. Now, that's not to say that men don't do that and that men don't help women. I'm not trying to be sexist, but women do have special relationships with one another in my world, anyways.
Now,
There's
you have an official launch coming up later this month. Tell us about that. You must be pretty excited.
I am. So on June 28th, at Silver Beach on Wigamog Road, from 2 until 4 in the afternoon, we're going to be gathering in the community room. And there'll be an opportunity there for people to come and talk to me about the book, to see some old pictures of the people who inspired Pearl and Rod in the first place, as well as to hear a reading of the second chapter of the book, which for those Maple Leaf fans in the audience takes place at a Maple Leafs party when they're in the year that the Leafs actually won the cup. So that'll be the chapter that I read. It's the second chapter, as I said in the book, and I think sort of helps to set the scene for some of the characters that appear later.
Now, those who have already purchased their book can get it signed by you on that occasion, but you'll
Absolutely.
be able to buy a book at the event as well.
That's correct. Yeah. I will
Wonderful.
have copies of all of my books there for anybody who wishes to purchase, and I'm happy to sign them. And I ask people to think about gifts to other people as well as their own reading pleasure, and look forward to just having people drop in and chat for a bit about the whole process of being an author and launching a book, and with no expectations of their taking money out of their pocket necessarily. Come and just enjoy some social time.
Well, I expect people to buy a book. Come on now. This is
Okay.
this is
Well, it would be
important.
lovely.
Now, I would say that a good many people who are listening to our interview and aren't lucky enough to be in the Halliburton Highlands would probably like to buy a copy of the book, how might they get a copy?
At the moment, it's available worldwide on Amazon in both an electronic format and a paperback format. I intend soon, but just haven't had the time, to upload it to a site called Ingram Spark, which sells to all local bookstores worldwide.
Oh, wonderful.
Um, So at some point in the not too distant future, it should be available at local bookstores.
Now, this may be a leading question, but I'll ask it anyway. Will we see Pearl continue her life's journey in a future novel?
I I haven't got a specific plan for that to happen. I sort of see this series as being complete at this stage, but I did start writing the story of Annie, who was Pearl's friend on the ship to Canada, whose husband lived in New Brunswick, and so we may see Pearl as a character in that story if I end up developing it.
That's lovely. So there may be a side journey to another character,
There may be.
and that will make many of your fans very happy.
I hope so.
Well, Marie, congratulations on your third novel, A Touch of Promise, and we wish you every success with it. Thank you so much for taking time with us today.
And thank you for taking your time, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Well, mine comes free. Marie Gage's third full length novel in the Promise series is called A Touch of Promise, and it's available through Amazon. And if you're in the Halliburton area, as Marie told you, mark the date for the Touch of Promise launch, June 28th, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Clubhouse, the Great Hall at Silver Beach, Wigamog Road in Halliburton. It'll be a wonderful afternoon.